was fantastic because every time we scored, we would just stomp on the ceiling. Yeah, I always wanted a group to get together with and, sing the songs and, just watch the games together with.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newcastle United Digest. My name is Adam Snyder, and on this episode, we have a very, very special guest for you. This is going to be one of the first of our fan chat episodes, and no better way to kick off this batch of interviews than with one of the OGs of the supporters groups. We have Toon Army Dallas, and joining me on this episode is Cheryl. So first off, welcome out, Cheryl.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you on. This has been, when I first started Toon Army Chicago 10 years ago, you were one of the groups that I aspired to emulate and try to bring people together. So first off, thank you so much for everything that you've done, not only for people here in Chicago, but for Newcastle fans and supporters groups all across the country.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
So when we get started, let me ask you, what was the desire? How did you get started as a Newcastle United supporter?
Well, actually, I started following. I don't even remember how. Here in the States, I saw highlights of Alan Shearer when he scored his hat trick on his debut. And I always tell people, I'm not going to lie, it didn't hurt. He was a cute kid. And I just kind of followed him as well as I could back then, because it was very, very difficult back then. Followed him as much as I could. And then once he signed for Newcastle, I just fell in love with everything about the club. And here I am.
What were some of like the big things that drew you in? Was Newcastle, was it the supporters? Was it the atmosphere that you saw on TV?
Yeah, because I liked Rob Lee. I kind of watched him a bit, and I loved the fans. And I don't remember how. I saw highlights too of him when he signed, and the big humongous crowd behind him and everything. And I just fell in love with the whole thing.
I think around that time there was that right as Fox Sports World came online and you started to see, random highlight shows like Premier League World and stuff like that. And maybe it was there, or was it maybe before that? Because I don't remember a whole lot of Premier League content before Fox Sports World.
Yeah, well, there was a little bit. You could get it here and there. From I think it was 1993 was when we first started seeing some games here. Okay. And just mainly just highlights and things like that. Before that, I just basically, there was actually just a little tiny section in our newspaper that covered the Premier League games, so I would see, what the scores were and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it was probably around 90. I think it was around 98 maybe that Fox Sports World came in.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because I think I might have had like a gap. I think the only matches I remember watching when I first started watching Newcastle was like, I remember maybe there were games on like random games that you see on ESPN, whether it was like FA Cup or maybe even Champions League games midweek. I remember watching. I don't remember much outside of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was hard to find in the beginning, for sure.
It was very difficult, and gradually things got better. Went behind a paywall, went away from the paywall, and then behind a paywall again, and
exactly
that's where we are today.
And now it's split, which is really irritating. And some's on paywall and some's not, and then if you don't have the stream, then you can't get what's not behind the paywall.
Exactly, we're right back where we started 12 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, how did you decide to start Toon Army Dallas, and where did that come from? Like, was it something that you just wanted to just see what was out there, or?
Yeah, I always wanted a group to get together with and, sing the songs and, just watch the games together with. And I was on the old Toon Army USA Yahoo page and all that kind of stuff. And I just decided that, surely there's more people out there. And I don't remember, I think it was, I didn't even get on Facebook until right before the team came in 2011. And the
Okay.
only reason I got on Facebook then was because that was the only way I could find out where everybody was going to be for the games and all that kind of stuff. So there was a guy named Andrew Gerbosi that started up the DFW Magpie page, and I joined that. And he and I were actually the very two first people to go watch a game at a pub up in Plano, and it was a FA Cup game, and I don't remember. We can't remember who they played, but we remember that Amiobi scored, and that's all I remember. And then so we got a few more people on the Facebook page at that point, and we decided that we were going to meet at Trinity Hall in Dallas. And there was the first meetup. I think there was maybe 6 of us.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and
And
check the
then
picture.
well, that's not the very. That's actually the second. The second
Okay.
time we met up was when so we had a guy named Dougie who lived in New York, but he is a Geordie. And he moved from New York to Dallas. And the New York group, before he left, the New York group got together, designed our flag, and paid for it. And then he brought it down. So essentially,
That's
we were
amazing.
born out of the New York group.
Okay, that's really cool that they were able to do that, and it's a good testament to that group in New York as well, of that they have that a good proper send out for him to go spread the Geordie gospel and bring it to Dallas.
Absolutely. And I mean, the flag's huge. I mean, there's
Yes, it
I think
is.
theirs is the largest and ours is the second largest.
I think this is what, like a 10 by 12 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's huge.
I think ours, the Chicago one, is a close third. We have a I think we have a 6 by 10,
Yeah.
and that I remember when I was over in the last championship season, so 2016-17. I did the Great North Run with my wife, and the day before we went to Derby away, and
Nice.
DeAndre Yedlin scored on a corner kick right in front of us, and I had the Toon Army
Nice.
Chicago flag with me, so I got it out, and it turned into a giant tifo in the away end. It was awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Um, so what have been your, obviously it was, kind of a little bit of a humble beginnings with 6 of you getting started. When did you start seeing a little bit more traction, and what would have been like your peak games, and what have been some of your favorites so far?
There was one game I remember at Trinity Hall that was against Tottenham, and we had a decent group for that one. And then we unfortunately, Trinity Hall, where we started, they said that they were a football pub, but they really kind of didn't really like football fans, so they kind of hounded the football people out. And so we went to a place called the Londoner in Uptown Dallas, and that's when we kind of got a lot more traction, I guess, because it was closer to downtown. So we got a lot of the downtown people.
That makes sense.
Um, so that was and there's a few games that we literally we have a picture of us literally on it. We have a phone on a table and we're all just sitting there watching the game on the phone because we couldn't get the stream on the TV for some reason. So but I guess we really didn't get get really good crowds until we moved to the Dubliner. We've been all over the place. But we had, it amazes me how many Geordies end up in Dallas because we have a whole lot of Geordies. And we just keep on picking them up.
Do you think it's because there's, it's kind of like almost a mini Silicon Valley you have there in Dallas? You have, like, with Dell there, and other tech, and I know Microsoft has a big presence there. So do you think it's the technology hub that you see there in Dallas that's kind of attracted them, or do you think it's
I
anything
mean,
else?
it could be because we have the so-called telecom quarter. But I don't know because actually there was a Geordie at our last season game, and he said that there is actually I guess it's a hiring agency or something in Newcastle that is specifically to get people to Dallas, which I find very, very strange
Wow.
because I don't know why people would want to come to Dallas.
Well, one, anything, you know, 90-degree, 100-degree heat is better than cold summers, I guess, in
It's
Newcastle.
really not, but maybe for
I
some
agree,
people.
but I mean the allure of, really, hot days and, relatively mild winters compared to what you experience in Newcastle. I guess it's an allure. I don't know.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, it's 93 degrees today. It's
Oh,
ridiculous. That's just wrong in
we're
October.
in October.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, my wife's best friend lives in Austin, so I hear about this on a regular basis from them from
Yes.
her as well. Um, what was your largest show up? What was your largest meetup? What were your numbers there, and where was that? Was that your current pub? Was it a previous pub?
We probably had our largest at our current pub. I would guess maybe it was one of the derby matches. I couldn't remember which one. Um, and then we usually do get a huge crowd. I'm not sure why we get a huge crowd for Man City. Um, and we had last year for Man City, I bet we had close to 40.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't like I said, I don't know why people show up for Man City, but they kind of share our room with us, so we kind of have this little rivalry going. And sometimes they're in our room, and then we're upstairs. So, and the 3-3 game was fantastic because every time we scored, we would just stomp on the ceiling. It was a lot of fun.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a whole bunch of running up and down the stairs just to just yell and
There
just
was a
interrupt
little bit
them.
of that going on. There was a little bit of that going on.
The dynamics is very interesting to say the least. What other groups aside from Man City do you share your pub with?
Well, they have everybody there. The
Okay.
biggest ones are, I would say, are Arsenal and Liverpool.
Okay.
But they have, I mean, shoot, they even have Leeds fans there. They have Wolves fans. They have everybody. The pub was actually voted the best pub in the country, Premier League pub in the country in
Wow.
2015, I think it was.
Okay.
So yeah, they have everybody.
It certainly sounds like it. I'm sure that it can be
Yeah,
very, very interesting when all of those are playing together at 9 a.m.
right, right.
Yeah, for anybody who's watching in the UK, that's your 3 o'clock kickoffs from Saturday. We're both in the central time zone here in the US, and so that's a 9 a.m. kickoff for us, 10 a.m. New York, 7 o'clock on the West Coast.
Yeah, so the
Uh,
last game of the season is always very interesting because everybody plays at the same
oh
time.
yes, oh
So
yes,
that we're usually upstairs for that one too.
yeah. That was one of those situations at our last pub, AJ Hudson's here in Chicago, where you had Man City, Liverpool, West Ham, Everton, at that time us, Brighton, not a whole lot of Brighton fans, a few Fulham fans. You also had Celtic and now Real Madrid and Palmeiras, like from the Brazilian league. And on the last day of the season, I would just tell everybody, you know what, let's find someplace else.
Yeah.
Because at that point, especially when, you know, the past few seasons, it's been Man City or Liverpool vying for the title against each other going down the stretch. And when you see that, a few weeks out, you got to start planning and saying, okay, out of respect for those two groups, let's find someplace else to just kind of let them take over because they're going to take over anyway. So let's not try and have this battle. And
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah. uh, so I think one of the other unique things that you have in Dallas is you've over the years have had the Newcastle Academy summer camp. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and as a fan, how that experience has been for you?
It was actually the Newcastle United Elites,
Okay.
which at the time under Ashley were not part of the actual club. But Rob Elliott and Shola Amiobi were very much involved with them, and actually
Okay.
Matt Ritchie was involved with them, and Paul Dummett
Okay.
was involved with them, and they were all four supposed to come over, but unfortunately, it ended up being, well, not unfortunately, but it ended up being Shola and Rob Elliott that came over with the kids, and
Okay.
so there was a group of us that went and watched them play. And those kids were genuinely just super impressed that there were people actually there watching them play, chanting for them, and everything. And it was really cool. It was really cool. They were genuinely appreciative.
That's awesome. So where does that stand now? When was the last time that came over to Dallas? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I think it was 2019, 18. Might have been
Okay.
18.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a guy that was involved with Toon Army Dallas that was involved with the elites, and that's how we found out about it, and that's how we got to
Okay.
go and that kind of thing. So, but the youth team, the U19s, came to the Dallas Cup in 2003,
Okay.
and that was totally awesome because they played 4 games, and we went to every single one, and it was first time I saw
That's
Steve
awesome.
Taylor and the first time I saw Peter Ramage.
That's cool that they came over for something like that. I'm hoping that yeah, that's another avenue that the club can use to start generating some interest in the club by just bringing their youth team over for tournaments like that, or even that new 7-a-side soccer tournament that's going on in Charlotte in the summer.
Yeah,
The the soccer tournament, that very interesting dynamics in that tournament. You get a little bit of everybody from like youth teams from pro clubs to like men's and women's national team alums to I think Wrexham had an alum team the past couple of years. It's a very interesting tournament that I'm happy it exists because it's fun to watch and that the format's fun. And I'm hoping that, that's something that Newcastle can get involved with going forward.
yeah, that would be awesome. And of course, selfishly, I want him to come back for the Dallas Cup just because I'm here.
It's in your backyard. You go to Charlotte and get a break from the 100-degree heat and
That
85,
would be nice
90-degree heat.
too. That would be nice too.
So have you? I know you've gone over a few times to Newcastle yourself. How many times have you been over?
I have been over, let me think. 1, 2, 3. I think it's 6 times.
Okay. Was that
Um,
usually just you and your husband? Have you gone with a group of people from Dallas?
the not from Dallas. The first year it was just me and my husband. The second year we went, the guy who actually he was part of Toon Army USA a long, long time ago. But he's a Geordie and he works for Soccer Tours
Okay.
USA.com. And he went over with us with his wife and daughter and her boyfriend and stuff. And then there was another guy that was coming over from LA that his grandmother had bought him the ticket, and so we tried to be a kind of a group at that point. But he didn't show up for the game, so or he showed up late for the game, I should say. But it was really great because Mark, the guy who works for Soccer Tours, he actually was able to get us on the pitch when the team came in.
Oh
And
wow.
so we met half the team. Peter Beardsley was there, so I met Peter Beardsley,
That's
and
awesome.
Philippe Albert was the halftime hero, and I met Philippe Albert as well. So that was one of the best trips, obviously,
Yeah, that's
because I
you
met
can't
Shay.
get any better than that.
Yeah, I met Shay. I met Nobby. I mean, it was fantastic. It was
That's
fantastic.
amazing. Yeah, you can't get any better than that, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like that's so cool that you had that experience. Um, so I know I've seen you a few times at various, Toon Army America meetups or preseason friendlies. I think we met. Did we meet? I'm trying to remember. Did we meet for the first time in
New
Milwaukee
York,
in
I thought.
2015? Was it New York?
I think it was New York. The very first Toon Army America meetup.
Yes, that's right. We did meet at the
Yeah.
at what was that? It wasn't where they're at now. They were at
Football Factory.
Legends. Yes, Football
Yeah.
Factory. Yes, yeah. That was a very it was a very interesting weekend because my wife had never really been around other Newcastle fans other than us in Chicago, and she got a it was a very interesting, eye-opening event for her, and I was like, "This is gonna be a fun weekend."
It was a lot of fun. It
It was
was
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
fun.
fun.
And then you came to Milwaukee that summer as well.
I did. We
Did you
went to
go
all 3 that year.
You did go all 3 that year. Did
Yep.
you go then this past year, the summer series, did you do any of those as well?
We did all 3.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing you in Philly, and that was
Yeah.
I'm so happy that things had turned out so well for that, not just that one, but for all 3 matches. I'm so happy for that.
Yeah. It was that was a great tour.
Yeah, it was. And, let's get back more about your group as well. So tell us a little bit more about, the dynamics of your group. Is it mostly just more adults? Do you have families coming out? What's your dynamic like mostly?
We have some kids. Some guys bring their kids, not very many, not very often, but we definitely do have a kid dynamic. We of course we don't mind kids at all, and they're allowed in the pub, so of course. But we have it's just a very eclectic group. I mean, like I said, we have a lot of Geordies. There's almost, in fact, I think I'm trying to think on Saturday. I think the only Geordie we had on Saturday was the one that was actually there from Newcastle. So,
It seems like
so
an off weekend for you.
that was one of the rare times there was. No, actually, that's not true. Rob was there. So yeah, there was a Geordie there. um, yeah, so we have a lot of Geordies. We used to have some of the guys come from Fort Worth, but now they kind of form their own group because that's kind of it's
That's
about
all.
it's between 45 minutes and an hour away. Yeah,
Mhm.
so they form their own group, which is fine. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's the actual physical size of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area is big enough to warrant 2 groups, to be honest. Like,
it's
I
yeah.
I completely agree with that one. I
Oh,
don't blame you for that.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
for me in Chicago, like, one of the reasons why I decided that I needed to step away from running the Toon Army Chicago group itself is because I can't get into Chicago every weekend. For me, it's the same distance of 45 minutes to an hour with traffic and everything. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So I thankfully, we I was able to connect with Bev, and she's done a great job of taking over Toon Army Chicago and finding that beautiful new bar that they have in the Green Post.
I'm telling you, I am jealous of that pub. I really like it.
I'm looking forward to the growth that we have. Like that back room that like normally like for so far we've been mainly congregating around the bar, but I'm
Right.
looking forward to the growth that we have where we kind of take over that back room and watch the game on that gigantic screen.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that. But for me, I've done a similar thing where I've started doing suburban meetups out here where, if we've got a late kickoff, try to find even out here I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago and I can still, you know, say I'm gonna do a suburban meetup and 10, 12 people show up. So
That's good. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's all
Yeah, 'cause
people
we're
who
talking.
are like, "Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah, we're talking about doing things like that too, like meeting maybe in Carrollton, or a little bit further north in McKinney or Frisco, or and just kind of we kind of put out a poll there to see where people were at, to see where we might want to concentrate more, kind of just not one-offs, but just every a meeting that outside of Dallas every once in a while, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And we're talking also about having a Toon Army Texas meetup as well, so that we can go around to have one in Dallas, have one in Austin, have one, and that kind of thing too. So
Yeah,
that would
there's
be good
that.
too.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic because the other groups in Texas, like Austin, who's just starting to get going again. Houston and San Antonio have been well established as well. So getting
Yes.
all of you together and under one roof is going to be amazing. And
Oh
hopefully
yeah.
I hope that's something that you guys can rotate maybe once or twice, a few times a season where you can make the trips and make that work.
Yeah, we're gonna try really hard, because I mean Austin's really starting to grow, which is fabulous.
Yeah, it is. And one of the friends I met from our first official Toon Army Chicago meetup was one of my groomsmen. Just moved down to Austin. He joined them for the first time for
Oh,
the Everton match.
excellent.
Yeah, I think it helps for them that their last season where they met was at a brewery that didn't have air conditioning in Austin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah, I saw that, I'm like, "Oh, no, that's not gonna work."
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, so, thankfully, that they've found a proper pub and they've got actually air conditioning so that they're in a better place now, and hopefully it's a place where they can continue to grow.
Yeah, that's good. That's
So,
good.
well, I think that is about it. Is there anything else that you wanna talk about, anything about your group or, any, information about where your pub is that we can, make sure we add to the, description for this video as well?
Well, we meet at the Londoner in Addison. And we have a Facebook page, Toon Army Dallas. We have Twitter at Toon Army Dallas, and we have toonarmydallas.com. We're working on, I think we're eventually going to have an Instagram page. I don't believe we have one yet, but we're working on that as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and make sure I add those in the description for you. And if you're watching this, be sure to give them a follow on their socials. And if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area, be sure to give them a look up and make sure you can meet up with them for a game.
Absolutely.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And this has been amazing to do. So hope all is well with you. And hopefully I can get down there sometime soon.
That would be great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.